Yog Kundalini Upanishad, presented by Svayam Prakash Sharma, Part 2. Part 2 consists of verses 40 to 86 of Chapter 1, which is then concluded. The teacher continues with his explanation of rousing the Kundalini through Pranayama. The Upanishad. Continuing with his discourse, the teacher says, as told earlier, through these 4 ways, when Kumbhak is about to be performed, the sinless yogi should practice the 3 bandhas, the Moolband, the Udhiyan Band, and the Jalandhar Band. Now each of these 3 bandhs will be described. First of all, the Moolband. Moolband is the process when the Apan breath, whose natural tendency is to go downward, when that Apan breath is forced to go upward by a person bending down. Then, when Apan is raised up and when it reaches the sphere of Agni, then fanned by Vayu, the flame of Agni grows long. Then, Agni and Apan both commingle with Pran in a heated state. Then, through this Agni, which is very hot, there arises in the body the fire, which wakes up the sleeping Kundalini through its heat. Then the Kundalini makes a hissing sound. It becomes erect like a serpent that has been beaten by a stick, and it enters the opening of the Brahmanadi, Sushumna. Therefore, the yogis should practice the Moolband daily, which they should do many, many times. Now we come to Udhiyan Band. Udhiyan Band should be performed at the end of Kumbhak and at the beginning of exhalation of breath. And because in this Band, Pran Udayati or Pran goes up, the Sushumna Nadi, this Band is called Udhiyan Band. For doing the Udhiyan Band, a person should sit firmly in the Vajrasana. He should hold his toes firmly with both his hands. He should then press at the Kand and at the place near the 2 ankles. Then he should gradually push up the Nadi, which is on the western side, first to the Udar, which is to the upper side of the abdomen above the navel. Then he should push it up to the heart and then to the neck. When Pran reaches the Sandhi or junction of the navel, it slowly removes the impurities or diseases in the navel. Therefore, this should be practiced frequently and regularly. The Band that is called Jalandhar Band is of the form of contraction of the neck, and it forms an impediment. It forms an obstacle to the passage of Vayu moving upwards. The Jalandhar Band should be practiced at the end of Kumbhak, when the neck is contracted at once by bending downwards so that the chin is made to touch the breast. Then Pran goes through the Brahmanadi, the Sushumna, on the western Nadi in the middle. Assuming the asana posture as mentioned earlier, one should stir up Saraswati and control Pran. On the first day, Kumbhak should be done 4 times. On the second day, Kumbhak should be done 10 times and then 5 times separately. On the third day, doing Kumbhak 20 times will do, and afterwards, Kumbhak should be performed with the 3 bandhs and with an increase of 5 times each day. One should understand that diseases are generated in the body through the following causes: sleeping in the daytime, late night vigils overnight, excess of sexual intercourse, moving about in crowds, holding back the discharge of urine and feces, the evil of eating unwholesome food, and laborious mental operation with pran. If a yogi is afraid of such diseases, when he is attacked by them, he often lays the blame on his practice of yoga, saying, "My diseases have arisen from my practice of yoga." And then he discontinues his practice of yoga. This is said to be the first obstacle to yoga, laying the blame of his diseases on his practice of yoga. The second obstacle to yoga is doubt. The third obstacle is carelessness. The fourth obstacle is laziness. The fifth obstacle is sleep. The sixth obstacle to yoga is not leaving the objects of the senses. The seventh obstacle is wrong perception. The eighth is sensual objects. The ninth obstacle is lack of faith. And the 10th and final obstacle to yoga is the failure to attain the truth of yoga. A wise man should overcome all these 10 obstacles with great determination. The practice of pranayama should be performed daily with the mind fixed firmly on the truth. Then chit is absorbed in the sushumna and therefore pran never moves. When the impurities of chit are removed in this way and pran is absorbed in sushumna, then does a person become a true yogi. Apan, which has a natural downward tendency, should be made to go up, should be raised up with effort by the contraction of the anus, and this is what is called Moolband. Apan, raised up in this way, then mixes with Agni, and then they both go up quickly to the seat of Pran. Then Pran and Agni unite with each other, and united, they both go together to Kundalini, which is lying coiled up and asleep. Kundalini, being heated with Agni and being stirred up, being shaken by Vayu, then extends her body in the mouth of Sushumna. It pierces the Brahma Granthi that is formed by Rajas and flashes at once like lightning at the mouth of the Sushumna. Then it goes up at once through the Vishnu Granthi to the heart. Then it goes up through the Rudra Granthi and above it to the middle of the eyebrows. Then, having pierced this place, it goes up to the mandal or the sphere of the moon. It dries up the moisture produced by the moon in the Anahat Chakra having 16 petals. When the blood is agitated through the speed of pran, it becomes bile from its contact with the sun, after which it goes to the sphere of the moon, where it becomes of the nature of the flow of pure phlegm. Now the question arises, how does blood, which is very cold, become hot when it flows there? The answer to this is that since at the same time the intense white form of the moon is speedily heated, the blood too gets heated. Then, being agitated, it goes up. Through taking in this, chit, which was moving amidst sensual objects externally, is restrained there. Then the novice, enjoying this high state, attains peace and becomes devoted to the Atma. Kundalini assumes the 8 forms of Prakriti or matter and attains Shiv by encircling him, and then it dissolves itself in Shiv. Thus Rajas Shukla or seminal fluid, which rises up, goes to Shiv along with Marut or Vayu. Pran and Apan, which are always produced, now become equal. Pran flows in all things, whether they are great or whether they are small. It flows in all things that are describable, that can be described, and it flows in all things that are indescribable, that cannot be described. It flows as fire flows in gold. Then this body, which is adhibhautik, that is, it is composed of the elements, then this very body becomes adhidevik, something like a guardian deity, and it is therefore purified. Thus it attains the state of ativahik. Then the body, being freed from the inert state, becomes stainless, and it becomes of the nature of chit. In it, the ativahik becomes the chief of all, being of the nature of that, being of the nature of Brahm. When a person sees a snake in a rope, then that is delusion. In the same way, the idea of release from life and the sansar is also a delusion of time. Know this for sure, that whatever appears is unreal. Whatever is absorbed is unreal. Like the conception of silver in mother of pearl is an illusion, in the same way, the idea of man and woman is also an illusion. The microcosm and the macrocosm are one and the same. So also, the Linga Sharir and Sutratma are one and the same. Swabhav or substance and form, and the self-resplendent light and Chidatma, all are one and the same. The Shakti named Kundalini, which is like a thread in the lotus and which is resplendent, it bites at the root of the lotus of the Moolband with its hood or mouth. Taking hold of the tail of the lotus of the Moolband with its mouth, the Kundalini is in contact with the opening of the Brahmarandra of Sushumna. If a person seated in the Padmasana and having accustomed himself to the contraction of his anus makes his Vayu go upward with the mind intent on Kumbhak, then Agni comes to Swadhisthana, flaming, because of the blowing of Vayu. From the blowing of Vayu and Agni, the chief, which is the Kundalini, pierces open the Brahma Granthi, and then it pierces open the Vishnu Granthi. Then it pierces open the Rudra Granthi, and after that, it pierces open all the 6 lotuses or plexuses. Then Shakti is happy with Shiv in Sahastra Kamal, the seat of the 1,000-petaled lotus. This should be known as the highest state, and it alone is the giver of final Param Anand or Moksha. Yes, this should be known as the highest state, and this alone is the giver of the final Param Anand or Moksha. This concludes the first chapter and the second part of the Upanishad. Om Shanti 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 Om.